Hey, everybody. Welcome to Breakfast All Day. Hey, we're back. Matt, Christy, Alonso with the news.
Hello. Happy day to you both. It's gloomy here in Southern California, as you can see behind us, but we are happy to see all of you. We have a bunch of reviews for you today. Katie Walsh and I earlier today had a lovely conversation about No Time to Die, our good friend Katie Walsh from Tribune. So we'll have that for you in addition to a bunch of other film reviews, including Titan, which so many of you guys requested that we talk about. So we will definitely get to that without spoiling all that makes it so wondrously batshit. But yeah, we begin with news. The most exciting news of all, of course, is that Kathryn Hahn is getting her own WandaVision spinoff. It was Agatha all along, and it will continue to be so.
If they don't use her song,
I mean, come on.
Tables will be flipped.
They can't not. Like that's the song leads in. The probably more, but we're going to turn this song into a show than necessarily that we're going to turn the character into a show. So
it's a wag the dog thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm all for it. She's hilarious. I was watching this conversation that she and Jason Sudeikis did. They have these like actors on actors conversations on Variety's website. And they were talking to each other. And he mentioned that like she is known as the Meryl Streep of comedy. And just within WandaVision, she gets to show so much range and has to do like so much that is so technically precise for each incarnation of each sitcom that, yeah.
No, I mean, well, did you guys, either of you watch Transparent?
No.
Well, she's great on that too. It's not a giant role, but she has a recurring as she plays a rabbi who gets romantically involved with the J. Duplass character, and she's really great on that show.
Very cool. So No Time to Die, I mentioned a little bit ago. It's open this weekend. It's only in theaters. It made $6.3 million just last night. There was a 4 p.m. showing here in, I guess, all over the place, but like even earlier than your usual 6 or 7 p.m. showings, there was a 4 p.m. showing because it is all of 2 hours and 43 minutes long.
It's the movie equivalent of like, well, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Yeah, I was happy to get in and out of it kind of early comparatively, but it's expected. So the $6.3 million that it made last night is a record for any Bond movie. And it's expected to make $150 million worldwide this weekend. It's been out, in Europe?
I think last weekend, I think it opened internationally and was doing
Britain.
Really well.
So it's opening here, only in theaters. It's going to make a lot of money. So I hope you guys can catch up with it at some point. It's a Bond movie. It's a Bond movie. Ana de Armas is charming as hell. And it looks great. So we'll talk about that later on.
But really, are we going to get a third team up of Ana de Armas and
Daniel Craig
in another Knives Out movie?
Right. This is essentially a sequel to Knives Out. They're just dressed a little more glamorously. Yeah, she gets to kick ass in this dress that, like, I don't know how it stays on her body. Anyway, but she's fantastic. She's fantastic in it. Yeah, tape and just prayer. IATSE voted. We've been talking the past few weeks about the potential of this giant union, which encompasses a whole lot of below the line crew folks. They voted to strike overwhelmingly with nearly 98% of their membership. I'm sorry, more than that, 98.7% of those who voted in favor to strike, and 90% turnout on that vote. There is still negotiation taking place to try to avoid a strike happening. I understand that there's been an agreement already about putting a 10-hour turnaround window in place, meaning that like you end on like, a Wednesday night, you don't have to come back till at minimum 10 hours later. So maybe there's some progress being made and we can avoid having the entire industry grind to a halt.
It's up to the producers. They will either, take these demands seriously, or they are facing a shutdown. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, so that is still ongoing. Just because they voted to strike does not mean that they will strike. So we'll keep you guys posted on that. Here in LA, at least, the LA City Council passed an ordinance requiring proof of vaccination to enter movie theaters, restaurants, gyms, concert venues, spas, places like that, beginning November 4th. Now, I believe these places have like until the end of the month to establish means of compliance with that. So it might not be like right on November 4th, depending on what place you're talking about. But this is also within LA city limits. So like, the market down the street from me here does not have to do it. But Alonso, I believe in West Hollywood, there already is something like that in place, right?
I'm embarrassed to say I don't know, just because I haven't really been leaving the house much of late. Since the beginning of August, I've been kind of back into a self-imposed lockdown. So I don't know, but that does sound right. I think they've been on this train even earlier.
So there's actually two different pieces of it. And one of it is the LA City law, which is restaurants and theaters and, indoor venues that you have to wear a mask. And that's the one that there's a 30-day window to which they have to come up with that. But then LA County has separately also done something where it's any indoor venue that's got over, I think, something like a few thousand people, masks are required. But they're not but the county hasn't said anything about theaters, for instance, about movie theaters. So there's two different things going on. And the other commentary I've seen about it is it may be tough to enforce, both from similar to the way store employees aren't supposed to stop shoplifters. I can't imagine any corporate entity is going to have their employees out front checking people's just for the liability concerns.
We have seen though, like in grocery stores, for example, and these are the kinds of videos that go viral when there are people who draw attention to themselves to be assholes. Like, is there the hope that there will be among us as a society,
listen to the words that are coming out of you.
I know, but can we all look out for each other? And let's say I see somebody at the movie theater and they're not wearing a mask, if some 18-year-old kid working the concessions doesn't feel comfortable going up to them, should I, as a member of society hoping for safety,
depending on whether or not you live somewhere that has open carry, I imagine, because I'm serious. I'm not relying on any kind of sort of notion of, the public health or the public good even to prevail here. I'm just seeing people being assholes. It's driving me crazy. Like yesterday, Hallmark star Candace Cameron Bure used her sizable platform on Instagram to share all this. I'm not anti-vax. I'm just pro good nutrition and long walks or whatever bullshit. It's like, please shut up. I beg you. So, I don't rely on anybody to abide by anything. And anybody who isn't forced to do anything isn't gonna. And anybody who can find a window in which they can get away with not having to do a thing that they don't feel like doing because America freedom, they're not going to do it. And so that's part of why I've spent the last fucking 3 months stuck in my house again, because the world is just full of assholes right now and it's making me crazy.
Well, here's my question for you though, my friend, is that if you have to show a card to just get in the building, isn't that going to help? Like if I can't go see No Time to Die without having a card proving that I'm vaccinated, isn't that like a whole big chunk of the distance there toward us helping each other out?
Those cards don't look like driver's licenses. Like it's pretty easy to get it. Like just print up your own card.
Yeah, there are.
So you think people are going to fake it?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah. They're already doing it.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
They're apparently even like if you get the home test. And, because that's a way for some venues to sort of show that you've got a recent negative test. Even that apparently is sort of self-reported. So like you could even fake those if you feel like it. Like, because basically what happens is you take the test and it's not like some code number gets entered somewhere. You voluntarily then go and say, I took this test on blah and it was negative. So, if we were dealing with an opposition that was operating in good faith, that would be one thing. But they have demonstrated time and again that they think this is all a hoax, no matter how many of their meme sharing peers and right-wing radio hosts die from this horribly in the hospital, and leaving behind their families. No, it's all still a hoax. It's all still fake somehow. And they're going to stick it to the man in any way possible by showing that they're not sheep. They're not going to be cowed by this thing. And as has been pointed out, if this was the attitude in the 1950s, we'd all still fucking have polio.
I mean, look, to a certain extent, I'm starting to come around to the anti-vax thing because I've seen the tens of millions of people that have died after getting the vaccination. And it's
Clearly,
just, you can't argue with those numbers. Like we're going to lose half the population of the world that gets vaccinated because that's,
did you guys see
coupled with the other thing that's happening is I'm seeing big government is now, tracking people's movements because of the chips that have been injected.
No, Bill Gates is. That's Bill Gates.
Oh, right.
You think he's not part of that shadow government cabal with Jeff Bezos?
Did you guys see the clip of the anti-vax protest on Hollywood Boulevard? This was this was genius. So there's this, they're like marching down, like they're right in front of the El Cap or something. And somebody with a bullhorn like points to a homeless guy who's walking by with a shopping cart. It's like, why are the homeless dropping dead in the street of COVID? Why isn't that happening if it's such a big deal? And the homeless guy with the shopping cart yells, "'Cause I got vaccinated, asshole."
It's free.
Yeah.
It's readily available. Anyway, but along those lines, California has placed a vaccination mandate on middle school and high school kids.
Good.
So similar to like how when you begin school, you've got to show you've gotten all your vaccinations, measles,
your rubella,
mumps,
and your mumps, and yeah.
You've got to show that you have a COVID vaccination. In our district here, once you get vaccinated, once you get your kid vaccinated, you need to upload that information. So they are tracking you, Matt. You're right. To keep track of how many kids are vaccinated, so we know how safe our schools are.
I think it's unethical for California to have done this because, 2/3 of Gabe's school has dropped dead from the vaccination.
Wow.
Matt is being sarcastic.
Matt's being very dry, friend.
Very deadpan about it.
For those of you who are listening, you can't see his face.
Yes. Please do not mistake anything that he's been saying about death rates as serious, because obviously.
Right. Somebody's going to cut that clip and try and make it look like, yeah.
See,
anyway,
they're saying even the lib media is admitting it.
What's that law that people can't detect sarcasm on the internet?
Yeah, that's what emojis are for.
Yeah.
Well, there are very, very liberal people who are anti-vax too, like Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
That's a whole other
extreme.
Idiots, yes.
There's a whole other extreme that we won't get into. Anyway, so California's vaccination mandate is coming for schools soon. Nick's birthday is next month. We'll get him vaccinated that very day. I'm very excited about that. But speaking of really anti-information, what?
The quick thing I was talking about is Poe's law, which is that without a clear indicator of the author's intent, every parody of extreme views can be mistaken for an actual position.
There you go. Letitia Wright, speaking of misinformation, is apparently spreading anti-vax information on the set of Wakanda Forever, the Black Panther sequel, which makes me very sad because isn't Shuri supposed to be all about science? She's the most brilliant scientist in Wakanda.
Acting. You have to remember, this is somebody who I first saw on a very queer show called Banana out of the UK that was done by Russell Davis, and then was out spreading anti-trans sentiment. So she can very clearly take on roles that have nothing to do with her genuine sentiments.
Very strange. Along those lines, do you see this? You probably don't listen to country music or follow country music, but there's this whole brouhaha with Jason Aldean's wife. Do you know who Jason Aldean is?
I know the name, but
Okay. Anyway, he's a big country star, kind of like bro country. And his wife posted a whole bunch of stuff on Instagram of their kids. They're really little kids. Maybe they're 3 or 4. They're not like my kids' age. They're small and can't choose their clothing for themselves. And so she's got them in all these anti-Biden shirts. There's some companies, some friend of hers makes, and the shirts say things like "hiding for Biden" and "anti-Biden social club." And she's like, "I won't back down." And then he got asked about it, and he's like, "I won't back down. I'm defiant, and I defend my wife's ability to express how we feel as a family." And other country fools are all jumping in "Welcome aboard, brother." And anyway.
Great, buddy, go roll some coal and ride over some bicyclists.
Yeah, I wound up not sharing my parents' political affiliation, and thankfully they never trotted me out as a billboard when I was too young to consent or have formed my own thoughts about things. So, yay.
My dad was a Republican and my mom was a Democrat, so they canceled one another out.
There you go.
My parents were Republicans, and although I don't think my mom really is anymore, but they were. And in 76, when was there was a national convention in 76 in Kansas City for the Republican Party. And my parents went and they came home and they had all this Ford gear. And one of them said to me something like, "You would vote for Ford?" I was like, "No, I like Carter."
Yeah.
They were like, "Why?" I'm like, "He looks nicer. He seems nice."
There you go. Were you guys deeply devastated by the hours-long shutdown of Facebook and Instagram this week?
I was more devastated that it came back.
I did. I got a little twitchy. I had to say there were certain things because just over the course of the day, because I mean, like I don't use Facebook a ton for me personally. I mean, I do post every so often, but you know, like that's where I promote like my Christmas movie book and other things like that. And so there were times where I think, oh, I need to put. Oh, right. Yeah, no, I can't, you know, and so, but yeah, overall, I'd say it was probably a lovely time was had by all.
Yeah. I continue to be conflicted about Facebook because it's a really nice way to connect with folks who have been lovely enough to be with us for years now, you know, and listeners and viewers. And it's a nice way to, you know, have sometimes quite frequently have civil discussions about film and stuff. And we've gotten to know a bunch of our folks who have been, you know, frequent commenters, and that's been really nice.
If it weren't for the podcast pages and the book page and like, you know, other stuff like that, that's what's keeping me there really, more the sort of publicly facing work content part of it than as a personal thing. But I do feel stuck there because of that.
I think Matt? I think it'd be great if that whole thing just crashed out and died. That'd be awesome.
Don't we think something awful would just prop up in its place? Sorry.
And I say so much shit has come out recently, like the whistleblower saying horrible things about how they knew how toxic Instagram was to teen girls. And like,
so I mean,
did this happen right after the whistleblowing interview aired?
No. It was as she was testifying in front of Congress, the system goes down. Like, you gotta turn everything off to delete a bunch of stuff.
I kept seeing memes from Airplane of Steven pulling the plug.
Right. Johnny,
I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
Leon is getting larger. Yes. So that happened this week.
Yeah. And that, the stuff that she said about Facebook is pretty damning because she was on the committee that was supposed to, I can't remember the name of the group internal to the company that was supposed to be looking into like, you know, elections and being a better corporate citizen than the one that they dissolved after the election. Yeah, it's
I just think this is such a huge business that even if Netflix were even if Facebook were somehow to go away, some other poisonous mushroom would pop up in its place.
And then like, does Instagram still survive? Like, let's say Facebook gets demolished because of all of this. Like, what happens to Instagram? Because they're the same company.
Or WhatsApp for that matter.
Yeah. What happens? Anyway, we'll continue to follow that. Do you see Emily Ratajkowski has a memoir coming out, and she says that Robin Thicke groped her on the set of the Blurred Lines video in 2013, the thing that kind of like catapulted her to stardom. You know, she was a model and then like looking fantastic in this Blurred Lines video is the thing that really made her much more famous. And she recalls that he came up behind her and like fondled her breasts.
Yeah.
On the Blurred Lines video. Does that seem redundant?
I mean, yeah, that's the weird thing about it. It's sort of like, well, yeah, I mean, it's awful, obviously, no matter what, assuming that it is true, which I am giving her the benefit of the doubt that it is. But yeah, that it's at the same time, we're sort of like, well, that scans in a weird way. I don't know. It's awful though.
And I remember after that video came out, there was already some stuff that I think Ratajkowski had said, like, yeah, we didn't realize they were only going to use the nude shots or the topless shots. Like that sounded skeevy to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Like it was promoted as like, this is going to be a legitimate gig, but they only use the stuff where you're naked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there is that. There's a fourth Hotel Transylvania movie, in case anybody cares. It's going straight to streaming on January 14th. And like,
I like the Hotel Transylvania movie.
They're kind of cute. They are, but I guess like at this point, like, why bother is just, you know, essentially this straight to video kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, Sandler and Kevin James aren't even coming back to do voices for this one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, clearly it has now reached that point of like the fifth Land Before Time movie where it just becomes a thing you crank out for the home video audience or whatever. But with the exception of stuff like Uncut Gems, I've gotten more enjoyment out of the Hotel Transylvania movies than like 90% of the Adam Sandler output.
They're cute. They're amusing. William Shatner is going to space on Jeff Bezos's giant penis rocket. Should pack my bags. Last night, pre-flight.
I'm sure a lot of his Star Trek co-stars would just as soon he stay there, but
Really? Is he not supposed to be a good guy?
Well, so there's bad blood, especially around the time of the animated series. I think that's where it really started, was that he didn't really fight to have any of them brought along, and his rep is not great with a lot of the co-stars. Like
George Takei and them are all sort of like, oh, Bill.
Right. Yeah, no, seriously, like Takei and Koenig and Nichols, and we're all just like, yeah, fuck that guy.
And I'm gonna be high as a kite.
Do you remember when he was on SNL and
the Get a Life sketch?
Well, but there was also the TJ Hooker sketch where like the entire episode was him on the hood of the car.
Oh, right.
Because I guess that was a thing that happened often, was that he would be riding on the hood of a car. And so this one was like, they're trying to have a whole conversation and he's just on the hood.
Also, that great Sweeney Sisters Christmas medley. That was from his episode.
Oh, right.
That is good. Couple more things.
Carol of the Bells.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple more things.
I can't hear that song without thinking that.
Awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay. So Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel are selling their house in the Hollywood Hills for $35 million, you guys. He bought this house a while ago for $8 million. It's on a 10-acre plot, and they put a pool in and developed the grounds and bought another parcel next door for more privacy. So if you have $35 million...
in this economy,
right?
Let me check the drawers in the kitchen. Let me see if I can.
A little pet-a-terre when you're in town at JT's house. So there's that, and then David Lee Roth is retiring.
From what?
What?
From music. From performing.
Is he going to go back to being an EMT?
Is that what he was doing?
Oh, you guys don't know about that? So like in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000, he trained as an EMT and he went on like a couple hundred calls in New York.
Oh, wow.
Like he was legit doing that job.
Where is he? Like Branson? Where is he performing? I had no idea this was even happening. State fairs?
I don't know. Something? And then at some point, I don't know. Because I think he had also sort of patched things up with Sammy Hagar. They were doing this Sans Halen tour.
Oh,
okay.
That's weird. No? So I've given you.
Is he going to Boca?
So David Lee Roth announces retirement from music. I've given you all I've got to give. He will throw in the shoes following his forthcoming 5-date Las Vegas residency. He's retiring from music.
All right. Well,
and after all these years, he still ain't got nobody.
Right. Maybe it's just like harder to get into the pants, right? Like the spandex, like zebra stripe pants and stuff. Maybe it's
I'm just imagining him golfing and like, crocheting or something. I don't know.
Anyway, there are 5 more times you can see David Lee Roth perform in Vegas at Mandalay Bay at the House of Blues.
That's what Cher keeps saying too. So, we'll just see how if this farewell tour sticks or not.
Right. Nobody ever actually retires. But one more thing, you guys, I should have done this way earlier. I forgot. So the new Apichatpong Wersethakul movie.
Yes.
We got to talk about this real fast and then we'll move on to our reviews. So Memoria, his new movie.
Yes.
Neon is distributing it in kind of a different way. They're not putting it in like, just New York and LA and then sprouting out to smaller little markets that have art house theaters. They're like taking their show on the road. Yeah, and going from city to city. Yeah,
well, there's going to be one single, not necessarily one single print, but there will be it will show once at a time. City to city. Only one audience at any given time will be seeing the movie. Is this globally or just in the U.S.? Do we know?
I think it's just in the U.S.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure they don't. I don't know if they have worldwide rights or not. Yeah, I'm of two minds about this. One is, yes, it's cool, and it kind of gives it a sort of museum installation thing, which is, a world he's worked in before. I'm I kind of wish that they would like do this for a couple of years, 5 years, 10 years, but eventually commit to like making it available on physical media via streaming, whatever, just for sort of like, I think I think there is a sort of democratic nature to cinema eventually, that eventually the moment comes where people have access to stuff. And so the idea that there are probably a lot of places within this country that maybe don't have an art house and don't have a nearby university or museum where it's going to screen. Like, I would like everybody to have the access to see this movie if they want to. But for the initial release, I think it's kind of cool that they're making it into this sort of literal event thing. It kind of calls to mind the old roadshow release schedule with films where you would book your ticket months in advance and like reserve your specific seat, and it was like going to see a play or something.
Well, that very much makes me think of kind of what we still see with big major, Broadway or East End productions, which is, you get the touring version, right?
Right.
And if you don't see that touring version while it's in town, you might be SOL. Mm-hmm. And so it feels like
until 5 years later when your local high school is doing it.
Well, sure. Right. I remember we were going to do a production of Our Town, and we had to make sure that you have to like call, what is it, Equity or whoever, make
Samuel
sure,
French, I think.
Yeah, Samuel French, and make sure that like no one nearby is also doing it.
Right.
Like, oh yeah, like our high school production is going to compete. Right. Like someone's like, yeah, I'll go see it at the high school. I don't need to see the big
the professional
downtown production at the Pantages.
You went to a fancy high school, Matt.
I know.
Let's acknowledge that though.
No, but that's
I was in it, so it wasn't that good.
That's a standard thing though for plays. Like if you even any tiny high school, if they're putting on, like Oklahoma or whatever, you have to clear the rights through like Samuel French or one of those places.
The way the IndieWire story describes this whole thing with Memoria, which stars Tilda Swinton as a Scottish woman who hears some weird noises and investigates them while working in Colombia. It says the launch will kick off at the IFC Center in New York on December 26th, where it will play for a 1-week exclusive theatrical run. After that, the film will travel to the next city, making its rounds throughout the country over a continuous string of week-long engagement. So it's a week at each city, Alonso. Mm-hmm. It's not just like one.
Well, it is for now. I bet you after they do like the major urban centers, it's going to be a kind of thing where it's one night at this museum in, Iowa or something where they don't think they could pull off a week, but they could do like a night at a college or at a museum. Just I'm guessing we'll see how that actually plays.
Yeah. So it looks like it's just the US and it's a week at each place, and each engagement will be available for a predetermined finite amount of time. And if you've seen Uncle Boone Me, who can recall his past lives, you know what you were in for with his latest.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's the thing. I am a fan of this filmmaker. I'm married to a huge fan of this filmmaker. So I like his stuff, and I'm excited about seeing this movie. But I don't know. I know there are like, our friend Mark Hoyk mentioned, like, the Cremaster cycle has never been released on physical media or streaming, or the clock, and so I guess they're trying to make this into something like that. But I, for one, would love an app where you could pay and watch the clock and tune in at whatever time of day or night, and it would be at the right place of it,
So it's not exclusive, right? So that kind of art house cinema is available to anybody who wants it. Yeah.
Wait,
that'd be cool.
No, if it were,
this, something like this, makes it inaccessible and exclusive. Like if you can't drive 5 hours or,
Yeah. And again, like if you want to do this for 10 years, great. But I would just like the idea that at some point down the line, it just becomes a thing that people can access on a more, on an easier level. But, we'll see how it goes. This is uncharted territory.
It is. And then one last quick thing. So Christopher Nolan, speaking of movies that will only be playing in theaters, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer movie is set for a July 2023 release with Cillian Murphy, his frequent star Cillian Murphy, who's been in Inception and he's in Dunkirk and a whole bunch of other Nolan movies. He is a star.
Batman Begins.
Yes. Cillian Murphy is Oppenheimer.
Okay. Well, yeah, I guess I had to push it to 2023 just to make sure that Universal could give him no other move. What is it? 6 weeks before or after? What was that?
And his $100 million budget too. They have to squirrel away all those nuts for Chris Nolan, right? Anyway, that's all I got for you.
We wish you all the best, Christopher Nolan.
There is one story that I have to add at one announcement. for the fourth time, Bear 480, aka Otis, has won. He's the champion fat bear up at the Katmai National Park in Alaska. He's gigantic, and he won. He beat out all the other bears that were fattening up. This is a contest that happens from roughly July till September. Which bears are going to be the fattest? Otis won the first championship, and he won in 2016 and 2017, and he's taking the prize home again. In the contest, he doesn't even know that he's in. But
how does hibernation work in terms of like when those bears all come out of the cave in March or whenever the thaw happens, are they going to be skinny again? Like,
yeah,
they
that's the whole thing.
They just
like
feed on that
skinny.
the whole time. And okay.
Well, so if one were to go to explore.org/meet-the-bears, you would see the before and after pictures. And
right.
The July picture of Otis, he's quite svelte.
Oh, he's live.
And the September, he is a grand chunk champion. Like he is, yeah, he's a big boy.
Otis Bear is fatter than the average bear.
Yep.
Very good.
Boy,
thank you.
Is he.
Thank you for your bear commentary. We appreciate that. And that's all the news I got for you.
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, watching, however it is you're dealing with all this. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon page. So much happening over there at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. We are talking about the season finale of Ted Lasso, and boy, howdy, there's some stuff to talk about. Talking about Morning Show, currently taking votes for which horror film we're going to be reviewing this month. Julia Ducournau's Raw is in the lead, but it's still anybody's ball game. So get in there and become a member and vote. And if you like watching these videos without the pesky ads that YouTube gives you, you get to watch them free, clear, and uninterrupted over at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Have a good week, everybody. Take care of yourselves and each other, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Boo boo bam.